Welcome everybody to yet another episode on Voices of Influence. We are continuing our topic around social selling and personal brand building. And today, to talk with us, we have Tracy with us. Tracy, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for Arjun for having me. I really look forward to this next, 30 minutes of conversation and bringing tips to your audience.
That's perfect. So, maybe Tracy, I would start off by asking you, tell me a little bit more about your journey and like what brought you to marketing and how you came into this world of being a marketing leader.
So, boy, I've been in marketing now for a little over 25 years. So
Oh,
I've witnessed the coming of the internet, the wild, wild west with the web, and now with AI. So see that whole stream of the ability to get in front of prospects and get your brand out there is just incredible. But yeah, so I would have to say my journey took a different take probably around, I want to say about 20 years ago, when I started getting access to an early system like Salesforce. It was called a Primo at the time, and understanding the difference that marketing brings when it comes to return on investment and that whole aspect of
mm,
being really data driven and attribution. Because you look back 20 years ago in marketing, everybody was still on the pretty front end of the web, and what are the giveaways at the sales booth and sales slicks. So I think I was definitely an early adopter when it came to data and attribution and tying every dollar spent to marketing return on investment. And that's really been the differentiator about myself and through my career is understanding, the whole testing and that whole attribution. But it's definitely been a roller coaster of learning, uh, lots of coffee, going through
of
everything.
course.
But I do have another unique take on my background as well. Several years ago, I worked for an organization. It was actually EasyLink at the time, and now it's called Open Text. And I was one of 5 employees out of about 1,000 that was selected to really understand Six Sigma and removing defects from process when it came to customer centricity, customer quality, not Six Sigma from a manufacturing lens, but really that lens of what is that negative impact to customers, and how to mitigate it out of your organization, whether it's incorrect pricing, or workflows that aren't working today,
Mm,
and all those types of things. So I've definitely had a unique roller coaster of learning and really understanding, kind of what's next.
right.
um, but it's been a really fun journey.
That's very exciting. Yeah. I mean, coming from a very engineering background myself, the idea of using data for marketing, I know has changed significantly in the last 20 years. What was earlier very qualitative has become very quantitative in the recent
Exactly.
past, for sure.
hmm
So, who are some of the clients that you work with these days? What kind of companies or what size of companies that you work with?
So I still work with mid-sized companies, generally about mid-size, but some past clients, I have NDAs signed right now, so on a couple clients that I'm working with, but some of my past clients are like American Express,
Hmm.
NCR, um, even Open Text. I've done some consulting for them as well. Prudential Financial, down in Newark, New Jersey, on Broad Street there.
Oh, okay.
Um, but yeah, so have several enterprise level, obviously, and then been hyper focused recently on mid-sized companies to really help them expand their brand, expand their messaging, create that footprint. And then the other attribute is really creating that velocity for them when it comes to that integration of marketing and sales and making that impact of, getting their prospects unaware of their brand to aware, and then, obviously close one as fast as we can. Definitely 2024 is all about the word of velocity. How fast can we go to, get that recurring revenue in the door, and continue that lifetime value. And that's been instrumental on, really helping and support these mid-sized companies and these CEOs that absolutely want to grow and scale as fast as they can. How quickly can they get to 10x? And it's
Right.
all about, that leveraging their brand, being trust in that brand, right? Because that you have to be authentic. You have to,
Hmm.
um, really come across, just like I said, authentic. But one of the other attributes that I really help and support my clients with is getting them from helping them beyond just leveraging, the different marketing channels with video and different content types. But after a prospect becomes a closed one opportunity, right? So they're now a customer. What does that onboarding look like? And the
Mm.
beauty is, the whole goal is to get your clients to validate your marketing messages, right? And to be those
Mm.
brand amplifiers. So that has been part of my methodology when I talk to my clients and help them and advise them from a fractional CMO role, is there should be time and resources spent on capturing, from the acquisition side of the house. But on the expansion side, it's the old school way, farmers and hunters, and land and
Mm.
expand. And so it's really acquisition to expansion, and making that a point, because as we all know, it's easier to keep and maintain that customer as you bring them through that expansion side of the house. But yeah, so
Yeah.
definitely, the different channels are so important, and the different content types, video,
Yeah.
all podcasts. Hmm.
Absolutely. So just um, you know, double clicking on one of the things that you talked about, as you have seen so many iterations of marketing engines coming out, uh, the social selling aspect, what has been your approach to that, using social media as a way to like market? What's your thoughts on that?
So yeah, so from a social element of that, I typically, because in B2B, everybody knows, like, LinkedIn is the, I guess, the hub of really reaching out those professional contacts. And so, Arjun, one thing that I do want to bring forth on social selling is a different aspect that I took early 2024. Is,
Mm.
we all create these wonderful connections in LinkedIn, but there's times that, your LinkedIn um, database, your like first level, right, is gets pretty large. Like right now, I'm sitting on just about 10,000
Right.
followers to my brand, and so I made this huge path forward on reaching out to 5 contacts every week, setting up some time, even if it's just 15 minutes, to get to know who they are, and ask those open-ended questions about, what are they looking to accomplish this year? What is their vision, long-term vision, professionally and personally? And then, kind of a quid pro quo, how can I help and support them? Can I open up
Mm.
my network? Can I make that connection that they need with somebody in my network that would be able to help them get to that next level? So that's been really instrumental. And then the other platform that I've been using a lot is Substack, as well, as a way of
Mm.
expanding your readership, because I do put out a lot of content. So, um, but I do have to say that, uh, when you look at content, um, the one aspect that I always tell my clients is that at the end of the day, the right video, right, is
Mm,
really the rock star, right? So I want to say about 5 years ago, maybe even 7 years ago, I wrote this whole blog article, I think in LinkedIn on the the path forward really needs to be video specific. And
mm,
again, it's really utilizing that video to help. Again, if you could get your clients talk, do a panel discussion about how wonderful you are, they're the validators of your brand, and
right.
to bring that forward is a promise. They help validate and your brand promise. And then the other aspect is the whole personal brand, right? Bringing through that thought
Mm,
leadership. What content can you bring forward that your audience doesn't know about, right? Or there's something new that you uncovered, especially with all these wonderful AI tools coming out. Like,
mhm.
I'm following a couple of folks that are really putting out some solid content on those AI tools that are wonderful to test and utilize and get acclimated. And then there's other ones that they might be those one hit wonders that just will not flourish through all the competitive lens. Um, but yeah, it's definitely interesting.
I really, no, I think you made a lot of very interesting points. Just to like recap, is that the idea of not only treating your social network as just connections and followers, but making that personal connections, whether it is in the form of direct messages and having that conversation, it's actually a very, very valid point because yes, it becomes transactional at some point of time. It would rather be a little bit more personal. I love that point that
Exactly.
you made.
Hmm.
And then around your idea of leveraging like Substack and other channels that you are able to um, transform your personal brand into either words or video or any other form of
Exactly.
content that you can actually share with like an
Hmm.
audience. And these are engines that like almost every early stage entrepreneur and founder or like a marketing team of an
Hmm.
organization should be thinking about. And I think it's a very valid
Sure.
point. And I think you touch upon a point which I want to like double click on is this whole content marketing in the age of AI, right?
Hmm.
There are, like you mentioned, there are like some tools that are really effective and some things that are not. What are ways in which this is trending? Because content is becoming very easy to create thanks to like
Hmm.
ChatGPT and the
Sure.
equivalent tools that are out
Hmm.
there. In this world as it stands right now, how do you stand apart when it comes to creating content, and also what is going to happen in the long term?
Sure, great question, Andrew. So when it comes to content from a marketing lens, of course, with all these tools, I think the beauty is efficiency. Because I'll use the tools, right? I mean, if you're not using the tools and understanding what I call mega prompts is how you create the request into a chat gpt 40 or any perplexity or any of these type of AI tools is really being specific on creating that high level prompt. And I think I just wrote an article on, my background and experience has been all about creating campaign briefs and being very specific. Who's the audience, the segment, the ideal customer profile, you know, what's the specific position on the messaging we're going to be using, what's the design look like. So all those kinds of um, information that you build out on a creative brief or from engineering. I have my background in creating requirement docs, with the product. I had the hat of product marketing and worked side by side with product management and helping them define a requirement doc, and how that looks. And I think that all transcends to, the information that you need to put into these generative AI tools to really get out the outcomes that you're looking for. But what it does, I think, for any marketer out there is really help with efficiency and kind of speed to market, right? So
Hmm.
getting that whether it's getting your video scripts together, getting your blog posts together, creating that continuity of your voice, because now they can train on your voice, how you write your But the beauty is that it still needs a human eye to it, right? So you really need to go through, double check the facts and figures, the quotes, the information that you put forward. But it really needs to have your personality, right? Your brand throughout
Right.
it. Um, and I feel long term, I feel that with some of these tools, it's really going to create such a high level of efficiency of, you look 3 years ago, just getting your content calendar together and creating, what is a byline article, a white paper, a case study, and writing all that from scratch and getting your different scripts together for either your podcast or your video scripts and getting that together. It took a long time. And now with this efficiency, you could really do so much in one 8 hour day. It's amazing.
Right.
So yeah, so I think it's a
Yeah.
wonderful thing. And like I took a course from Andrew Ning from Stanford on AI and
Right.
understanding deep learning and machine learning and the differences between generative AI. And he talks about AI being like the new electricity. Like that's how
Mm,
impactful it's going to be. Hmm.
I love it. No, I love Andrew Ng's courses. He's like amazing.
He is.
The I think you said a couple of points is the efficiency boost that AI is given in content marketing is something that we should completely embrace. There is no
Hmm.
reason not to. But in the same time, like you mentioned, how like you still want to keep it authentic, stick to your brand, and then be able to like come out as not like something that's mass produced through like
No,
an
yeah.
automation, but it has to be from where you are, which sounds fantastic. I think those are very valid points. Sort of jumping and asking about your journey building your brand, right? I know that you have a bit of a following on LinkedIn. Tell me a little bit about those early days of when you decided that you're going to start producing content on LinkedIn, build a following on LinkedIn. What was it like? How did you choose who your audience is going to be and like what kind of tone you're going to do, whether it is on LinkedIn or even on Substack or other channels?
Hmm.
What was those initial days like?
Well, I have to say, Rome wasn't built in a day. So
Of course.
I think I joined LinkedIn, I want to say it was like 2004 or maybe 2006.
Wow.
So definitely an early adopter to that process. And uh, I think, well, it was probably only about maybe about 10 years ago that I said, I really need to utilize LinkedIn um, to really increase that thought leadership that I was building. I was building my personal brand. I feel that I'm a very dynamic, data driven marketer, and I wanted to get that passion of marketing and passion of really being data driven through to for my personal brand on LinkedIn. And so started writing very heavily about key performance indicators. And way back before marketing was really looking at that lens of
Mm,
the differentiators between attribution and really trying to be at the forefront of how marketers should think when um, the CEO has created this vision for the organization and this growth structure. And as a marketer, because you look over the years, you could see that any CMO may last 2 to 3 years, because if sales is failing, it's usually marketing that gets cut. So, and
right.
um, so it was really based on my passion for building my name, um, and with like my education and experience and things that I was able to um, see and witness during my tenure at some of the companies that I worked for. In fact, when Pardot was just built, I mean, purchased by Salesforce that year, I did so much with that integration I actually grew first year with this amazing team of growing net new revenue by 73%. And that was just making sure the integration between the systems were together. Those platforms fell under me, um, which was kind of unique. When you look at other businesses, it usually falls under operations and that sort of thing. But it was my P&L, and I brought these systems in: Salesforce, Pardot, and a dialer as well for the SDR team. But um, just having that experience and seeing the outcome of putting this tech together and seeing the results of pure automation and workflow and lead management, where you have lead scoring and the right content, right? It's all about building that content out based on the buyer's journey and having the type of content that they want to engage with. Um, so, going through my passion of marketing and being data driven, you want to share what you've learned and what you were able to accomplish to your network. And so I started doing all of that and just posting up different things early, and people were really engaged with that type of content. And then for a short stint, I did do some writing for Forbes magazine. So I was building
Mm,
out content in Forbes, going back to LinkedIn. Like I made sure everything, like LinkedIn was my hub, really gathering. And I do want to like thank my network, because they pushed me to do more and
mm,
bring forth more content. I do have a newsletter on LinkedIn as well, Revenue Accelerator, that I push out content as well. Um, but it's been a long journey. I kind of went through times where I had so many clients that I was, pretty much working 7 days a week, and I didn't have time to do the content. So I always try to now, over the past couple of years, have a solid balance between quality time to continue my education, right? To see what's new, take those certification, and being able to take that knowledge and anything that I could learn, tips to share to my network is just amazing, and just how
yeah.
far I've come with doing that. Hmm.
I really like that. You came with a background in like a very specific niche, even though now it's probably a big niche.
Yeah.
The whole
Hmm.
idea of data-driven marketing, the key performance indicators, and everything, and then you carved out your niche, and then be able to like grow stronger in that through content, written content, as well as the newsletters and everything that you were
Hmm.
doing on LinkedIn, which is amazing. And I think like you've grown your network, and how your network has helped you grow as well, and has gotten to where it is. Curious about, like, this is a question that I've been sort of hearing from quite a few people about, like the tone and the style of content that you write. Are you usually writing very opinion pieces, or more around the lines of being inquisitive and like curious about things, or like what's your tone that you take when you're like writing these content?
That's a good question. I think it's more educational. It's
Mm,
what I've learned across my journey, what I've seen as results, and what works, and really pull that forward. Being authentic, in my approach, but really educational, I would say.
got it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Got it. And this is great. I just ask a variety of
Yeah,
people who have
that's
built a
great.
personal brand around this
Mhm.
tone, and it's very interesting about like how different people take. And tell us a little bit more about like right now, what is the habits and routines that you follow? And the reason why I ask this is right now everybody's busy, especially marketing folks are like made to do more with less, and they're
Mhm.
very busy right now. And in this world, like creating content and building that personal brand typically takes a back seat, as we have seen with several people. So what is your process and routines that you follow to like produce content that you publish either to your newsletter or LinkedIn? How do you do that?
So yeah, great question. I usually let's see. Usually Sundays, I have a little journal, and I'll start jotting out some ideas of, you know, what I'm going to tackle and think about. Um, And part of that comes from a lot of the newsletters that I read, right? To gain that
Mm-hmm.
understanding of what are folks talking about right now, or look at some hashtags. What's trending from a hashtag lens that maybe I have some answers or some opinions on based on those hashtags. And then the other aspect is what I see folks talking about in LinkedIn. That
Mm.
um, some folks talk about like different pain points they have, either from talent on board or not sure about different marketing channels and the approach or the strategy, or just gaining that understanding. I do a lot of reading from that, or listening to videos as well, podcasts. So yeah, I definitely go for a walk every day and listen to different podcasts just to see what other marketers are saying in this space. Um, but from that lens, I'll gather some of that information. I'll jot down on a little journal about what I should look at and what should I tackle over the next couple of weeks. What do those topics look like? And then I generally do set aside time on my calendar to write.
Mm.
I'll I might put into Chat GPT 40 of maybe some quotes or some specific topics that maybe other thought leaders have been talking about, and get bring those quotes into the document as well. Um, and then I really sit down and just start writing, and I want to make it sure that it's authentic, that it's really helps to build that, just build the relationships, build the trust. It's incredible that some of the documents, some of the content that I've written does strike a nerve, and I'll get
Mm-hmm.
DMs saying, "Oh my gosh, this came to me at the perfect time. I was just about to, change up my strategy or think about the second half of the year." Or I did one about the 90-day plan for a chief marketing officer. And what does that look like
Mm.
with a template? And that, once I posted that, the DMs were like, this just hit me at the right time. I just got my new job as a CMO, first time. How do I do a 90-day plan is perfect. So, um, having that as, um, you know, building those relationships and making sure that you're ready, that authentic content is really so paramount. And then generally, what I do every quarter is kind of sit down. Oh, well, before I get down that path, I do look at LinkedIn. I do look at the different platforms just to see how is the engagement, besides what you
Mm.
see with folks liking, sharing, on LinkedIn. But overall, looking at those types of metrics, um, and see where I fall short. Like every once in a while, there might be a
Right.
piece out there that just didn't fit. So but generally, because I am data driven, I'll look at that and gain that clarity of, is there an add on piece that, for example, I had one that had a gazillion likes, right? And so, is there an add-on piece to that I wrote
Mm.
that could be like a phase two, or something that could continue with adding value? So some of those thoughts as well. Hmm.
Love it. No, yeah. So you've gotten into this research mode on Sundays, noting down, and
Hmm.
then you carve out time in your calendar, which is very important to like
It is.
go write it, and then you're like making sure you get the feedback loop on engagement and what you
Exactly.
can do to like further that, and then you're improving the process. I really love that. And if you were to like, just if someone comes to you and say that like, hey, I'm starting out building my personal brand on like LinkedIn per se, what are some top one or two tips that you would give them? And remember, these are people who are just starting out, they don't
Sure.
have already a following. What would you suggest to them?
I would definitely say consistency matters. So
Mm.
if you're gonna have that promise where you're going to be sending out content, say you're going to send out content once a week, every day, whatever. That
Mm,
consistency in not only the look and feel of the content that you're putting out, the imagery, um, that there is that kind of strategic lens of building your brand. Uh, and then overall, I would definitely say uh, understand and know your audience. I know it's early, so who do you want to reach out to? Who is
mm,
the personas that you really want to engage with that's going to make a difference, right? So really understanding who your audience is going to be. And it just because you set it off in the beginning doesn't mean it's that way. You could always
right,
pivot, you could always be agile enough to learn that maybe that idea of who you wanted to reach in the beginning wasn't the right focus. That happens in
right,
companies where they think they know their ideal customer profile because somebody sat in a corner office and thought about it but not doing it the right way, right? So always think that because something is set in stone, you think it's set in stone, it really isn't. Like this day and age, you could really pivot and be hyper focused on really understanding and getting that knowledge of who is your personas that you want to go after. um, and then just make sure that you're driving value. You're not just putting out content just because you have to check a box, right? It's
right,
when I write, I always think about why this story right now. Like, does
mm,
it make impact right now? Is it
mm,
is it disruptive in the marketplace? Like, is it something like that will disrupt that whole thought process where everybody thinks that's this certain way, but you come up with a different way to go down this way, this other path. But definitely making sure that it provides value. Um,
mm.
yeah. So I would say those like
I
three
love it.
key points. Yeah.
Yeah, those were yeah 3 or 4 key points. I think the just to recap, so our audience get it right. The first one is consistency is key. It's very important for you to be consistent, whether it's daily or weekly.
hmm
Your audience matter. Think about your audience, but it's not set in stone. You're
Yeah.
okay to explore and try a few different things before you settle on this. And the third point being that think about the why and what value you're adding. And these are very, very important things. I think great tips. I feel like anybody who's starting out should definitely follow that. I wish like I knew all these sooner as well, but now is anyway a good time for me to learn all of these things as well. But to just finish it off, I usually ask one this or that question, which is more, I think I already know this answer from what you have already shared with us. But if you were to pick between this for your social media posts, which would you choose? One post every day with about 70% quality, or one post every 2 weeks about 100% quality? And you have to choose between one of those two.
I would do one post every day because
Got
sometimes
it.
good is good. Like a lot of people think that content needs to be perfect. But this
Mm.
age with speed to market, sometimes good is good.
I love good is a great way of thinking about it. I think the perfectionist trap is very true. A lot of people get into their head that it has to be perfect, but I love your answer over there. Tracy, this has been a pleasure talking to you and asking you all these different questions and hearing your answers on them and also your tips and tricks for our audience. Appreciate your time here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right. Bye bye.